Welcome to today's webinar, Empower, Engage, and Elevate, Cultivating Joyful and Equitable Learning Environments. We're thrilled to have you here with us. My name is Jamie Jo Morgan, and I'm a manager of customer success here at Thrively. So I'll be your host for today's session. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment just to share a little bit about Thrively and cover just a few housekeeping items so that we can ensure a smooth and enjoyable webinar experience for everyone. So first, I want to start by saying that Thrively was founded on a core philosophy that every child has a genius and they deserve to thrive. So at Thrively, we say what's strong with you, not what's wrong with you. Our core mission is to bring a paradigm shift in education through asset-based learning. So at Thrively, we've created the industry's first strengths assessment for children to unlock the positive learning identities and strengths of every learner and to help increase their confidence and their self-esteem. We measure hope as a cognitive trait with our Hope Index, which helps develop agency and resilience. And lastly, we ensure emotional security with our Well-Being Index. And we do this by creating a strengths-based, joyful, and hopeful learning environment that impacts your academic outcomes. I want to thank Allison Greider for joining us today. Allison, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello. Hello, I'm Allison. I'm from San Angelo, Texas, which is kind of in the middle of Texas, the beginning of West Texas. I'm teaching fourth grade now and have been using Thrively about 4 years. So I'm excited to be here and share my love for it.
Thank you so much. And I'm so appreciative that you were able to take the time to join us today, Allison. Allison is a huge supporter of Thrively, and I've asked her to join me today. And I'm inviting you all to be part of our conversation as we talk about Thrively. My name is Jamie Jo Morgan. I've been in education for 16 years. 8 of those years I worked as a gifted and talented instructional specialist. I built a gifted and talented program for my district kind of from the ground up. I'm also a mom raising 2 incredible daughters in North Texas with a very, very patient husband. And just a little bit about me personally, I'm a huge musical theater advocate, participant, volunteer. And so I use that in everything that I do. Allison, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself before we get started?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've taught so many years. I've kind of have to really think about it every time that I'm asked how long I've been teaching. But in all my years, Thrively has made the last 4 years of my teaching journey just so joyful as I get to help these kids really do thrive. The name is perfect of the website. So it's a great program if you haven't used it. And if you have used it, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm excited that you've joined us today. And I'm so excited that all of you have taken the time to join us in our webinar today. I want to go ahead and get started by highlighting our goals for today. So this slide kind of gives an overview of the main topics we'll discuss. Personalized learning. We're going to explore how tailoring instruction to each student's strengths and needs can foster engagement and equity. Student voice and agency. We'll discuss strategies to empower students by giving them ownership of their learning journey. And positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS. We'll look at how a strengths-based approach can build positive classroom environments and address diverse needs, and how Thrively can work with PBIS. Culturally responsive teaching. So we'll highlight how celebrating student diversity can create inclusive, equitable learning spaces. So these topics collectively aim to help you create joyful, hopeful learning environments for your students where all of them can thrive. And so personalized learning is about tailoring your instruction to meet your unique needs of each student. So this is approach is critical to fostering equity in your classroom, and it ensures that every learner, and I want to say that again, every learner, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to succeed. It's particularly impactful for underrepresented groups who often face barriers in traditional learning environments. And I've included some pictures that Allison has shared with us. So I'm going to give you a chance just in a moment to kind of share what you've done, Allison, because I think it is truly remarkable. So Thrively's approach to personalized learning begins with that strengths profile. which helps educators identify and leverage each student's unique abilities. By focusing on strengths, Thrively empowers teachers to create personalized pathways that engage students, whether they're high achievers or they need extra support. So, Allison does a great job of using Thrively in her classroom, including your innovative coffee house experience. So, Allison, you want to tell us a little bit about how you use Thrively to personalize the learning of your students?
Sure. Let me just say briefly, I know you listed that I'm a gifted and talented teacher. My campus is a remarkable example of a diverse student population. About 50% of our students are gifted and talented, and they kind of transfer over. But we are also a neighborhood school on actually a national landmark. Fort Concho Elementary is on the Fort Concho grounds. And so we talk about diverse learners. 50% of our population is in a very economically disadvantaged neighborhood, while the other 50% choose to transfer over for our gifted and talented services. But equity is our motto. We treat all students as the child that needs that deserves to reach their potential, despite their current level. And even our struggling learners really do thrive with the learning platforms and Thrively, since they can find out what their strengths are, and then they have some confidence that, when we teach them that everybody has certain strengths, you can't be strong in everything. You have your top five. Then they see other students that also have those same strengths. And this is what this darling child here, she was showing her screen to her partner, her that sits next to her, and they were like, oh, we match, and it's just a wonderful platform for them to really gain ownership about themselves at a young age. These are fourth graders, and they can just then have that confidence that empowers them to just really take charge of their learning. And we know that's really, gosh, if they can do that, then our job's done, really.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember one of the greatest things is when you take the strengths assessment as an educator, and then you see the students take the strength assessment after they have that initial reaction of my students like to say, it knows them deep down in their soul. After they are reading and they're surprised and they're taking a moment to think about their own results, the very first thing 90% of the students do is immediately come to the educator, the teacher in the room, the counselor, whoever is giving this strength assessment to them, and they want to know. And they would come to me and say, Miss Morgan, what are your strengths? And they wanted to know if they had any in common with
Hmm.
me. And one of the greatest things was being able to go and research things about themselves that maybe they didn't even know. And
Exactly.
seeing that was just remarkable.
The vocabulary is a huge component of it. And so sometimes they don't know what those words are and what they mean. And so we have like a Thrively Thursday. That's where we really kind of hone in on our Thrively website, and we revisit those academic and those personality characteristics that Thrively teaches them. And I do make sure that when they take those assessments that they understand what those questions are asking them, so that they have a true profile of their strengths and smarts and habits of mind. So I do have a screen where we have our little "What's Strong with You" board that kind of matches your background. And they took their little faces and put them around it. And they love seeing where mine is and where their friends are. And then we have conversations like that to really build that classroom culture.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Making it visible is one of those key parts of this. You want to make sure that you have it somewhere where they can see it. Making that learning visible is just a huge step that you can take. Which brings me to student voice and agency. So, another essential part is creating engaged, empowered learners. Student voice is all about ensuring that students feel heard and involved about decisions in their learning. And student agency takes this even a step further by encouraging them to take ownership of their educational journey, setting their own goals, working toward them actively. One of the greatest things about Thrively is that it gives students a space to use their voice. Thrively supports this through Hope Index and well-being check-ins, It helps assess their emotional health and set meaningful goals. And these tools not only foster agency, but they help to create a safe environment where students can thrive both emotionally and academically. Allison, I'd love for you to share how Thrively gives students the space to use their voice when you use these.
Well, I started using Thrively for the strengths assessment. And then when Thrively began their well-being index, it's probably been what, 3 years ago, Jamie, that the well-being index became a part of the platform. And talk about giving students a quick way to have a student voice about their own personal space and their own struggles, or just to connect with me immediately. And they know that they can take their little well-being index any day that they want to, but especially Thursdays. I'm pretty much a kind of a strict, like, have you done your Thrively? Please don't go to recess until your Thrively's done, that kind of thing. Of course, I'm going to let them have their recess, but I just want them to know that I value it, so that they know that's their voice, and that they have that agency built into it to encourage them to know that I do care, that I am going to read it. My principal also will get on the website, and she will, and I tell them, I will read it. Your principal, Miss Martin, will read it. But your friends aren't going to read it. Your parents can read it if you log in at home and show them to it, so nothing is a secret there. But just to be able to have that voice between the teacher and, the kids in this digital age, they love to click and type, and there's a scaling little scale, as you know, if you've used it. But I love the response too, because then that ties into our little short constructed response daily ritual of having, they have to compose a quick little 2 or 3 sentences that explain how they're feeling that day when they do their well-being check. So I've had students that I've had to, call some important people to kind of check on their well-being at home. You get involved in some situations where by law I'm required to get some help for them. And thank goodness they had a place to call out and cry out, so to speak. I've had other students who, on a lesser note, just kind of let me know that they're new this year at our school, and because we have so many transfers, and that they know they should love everything, and they do. They love it, but they just miss their old school, and they just don't feel like quite a part yet. When on the surface they're smiling, but here I give them that opportunity, thanks to Thrively, for them to kind of just find a way to talk to me, because sometimes paper is a little intimidating, and of course the teacher standing at the door when there's all these other voices, that also can be intimidating. So something about a computer screen that they know connects to me is just been valuable. I have a handful of stories where I feel like, oh my gosh, how would have this played out if I didn't have this platform and the well-being index?
Oh,
So thank you.
absolutely.
I say, oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's so important for their emotional journey to go hand in hand with their educational journey. We all know that if they're not emotionally safe and secure and feeling well and hopeful, then the academics are going to be a lot harder to
And we talk
instill.
about that. I
Oh,
explained to them why we're doing this. And it's because your emotions, if they are not taken care of, then nothing else you're going to learn today is going to stick. And so this is all about you being your best self. And I talk about you thriving.
oh,
They really
absolutely.
do understand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And once they've got that connection with you and they feel safe in sharing with you, and they know that you're going to look at their responses and read their responses and then be receptive to them, then you've got that engagement that just naturally occurs. And once you've got that, then, like I said, the academics come naturally. And
And
so,
when you have 9-year-olds who start putting themselves to bed sooner because they realize, oh gosh, because the sliding scale for sleep is important, and
I've
then
had
later
that
that I've
too.
been getting more sleep lately, or
Yep.
the eating healthy, all those things. So it really does give them that empowerment at 9 years old, to start taking charge of their little life.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen that too. I've seen that too. Behavior used to be a huge thing, and so that actually brings me to PBIS. When I've talked to several schools, I've heard quite a few schools that I speak with that utilize PBIS, or positive behavioral interventions and supports. It's a proactive approach and it's designed to encourage positive behaviors while addressing challenges early. It really emphasizes creating an equitable school environment where every student feels supported. And what's great about Thrively is that it aligns perfectly with the schools that are already using PBIS by offering resources that highlight student strengths. So it works with PBIS interventions. It's not another tool. It helps make those interventions more successful because those insights allow educators to build better behavior plans focused on students' positive attributes rather than solely addressing challenges. And we know our educational atmosphere has been a lot about addressing the challenges. And one of the great things about Thrively is it's a strengths-based perspective. It not only reinforces good behavior, but it boosts student confidence and engagement. Thrively's data, for example, can be used to craft individualized behavior strategies that ensure every student has the support they need to succeed. By combining PBIS principles with Thrively's resources, schools can foster classroom environments where positivity and equity really thrive. Allison, have you seen an example of that in your class? I know I've kind of included some examples from your students here, which I just love to read.
Yes, and there's several of these in our hallway. It was hard for me to pick just because they're all so unique and special. They just they realize that the expectation is that that excellence is who we are and what we do. It's actually our school motto, and they say it daily after our morning show. And it just all, like you said, blends so well to encourage that the being kind and being safe and respectful and responsible, all that culture that so many of us are intentionally building. So it goes back to that intention that the
Absolutely.
students are a part of.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And culturally responsive teaching is the last kind of aspect that we're going to talk about today. I want to talk about culturally responsive teaching. It's an educational approach that integrates students' cultural references into all aspects of their learning. And when you do this, culturally responsive teaching not only enhances the engagement, we've talked about all the ways that we enhance engagement, but it not only enhances engagement, but promotes equity by ensuring that every student's unique background is celebrated and, most importantly, valued. Thrively supports culturally responsive teaching by providing resources that foster inclusivity and respect for cultural differences. The platform's strengths-based approach allows educators to focus on what makes students unique, what makes each student unique, creating classrooms where diversity is seen as a strength rather than a challenge. When Thrively's when educators use Thrively, they can implement culturally responsive practices with ease, ensuring their classrooms celebrate diversity while supporting academic success for all of their students. I know that I saw some really great examples in some of the photos that you shared. I wish I could include all of the photos here for everyone. Allison, you've done a great job of making sure that you're celebrating all of your students and all of their differences. And I just really applaud you for that. It's just
Oh,
truly
sure.
remarkable.
Well, I'm part of a campus culture that every classroom does that. So it's certainly not unique to me.
Well, you do an amazing job, and I'm just so impressed, so impressed. And I just applaud you and your campus and your principal for recognizing this in you. And we know how important it is for our students to feel valued for who they are. And that's one of the things that I use Thrively in my classroom for 8 years before joining Thrively as a customer success manager. And I saw the difference that it made in my students. I saw how it changed them just fundamentally and changed just transformative for our classroom culture. And so I wish every student in the world could experience this. I want to kind of bookend By just before we close, I want to recap our key points from today's discussion. So we did start with personalized learning, exploring how aligning instruction to students' unique strengths creates equitable and engaging learning experiences. I cannot say enough how important taking that strengths assessment is for every single student. I mean, like if that's the only thing that you're able to accomplish between now and winter break is making sure that all of your students have the strength assessment done, I would encourage you to do that. And then send those certificates home, because think of the amazing transformative conversations that can happen with families at home, celebrating the students' strengths. Next, we highlighted the power of student voice and agency, showing how involving students in their learning journey fosters ownership and motivation. And we discussed PBIS, a proactive approach to build positive student behavior, and how Thrively is a resource that works with PBIS. It's not another thing. It's something that enhances that and makes it more successful. It addresses the needs of all of your diverse learners. And finally, we looked at culturally responsive teaching. We want to emphasize the importance of equity and celebrating the rich diversity in our classrooms. I want to encourage you to take what you've learned today, what we've discussed today, and implement practices in your classrooms using Thrively's tools, the strengths profile, the hope index, the well-being check-ins, and even the connections feature are here to help you create joyful and equitable learning environments. We've made additional resources available. We've got program guides, videos, over 80,000 hours of instruction, all to help you in your classroom. We know that time is our most valuable resource. And one of the greatest things Thrively gave me was the gift of time, by developing these strong relationships with my students and helping them to develop voice, agency, and emotional well-being. They were able to be more engaged, which gave me time in my classroom, time that I was not redirecting misbehaviors. I was working with my students and they were engaged in their learning. We do have a couple of extra minutes here. Do you want to talk about the coffee house environment you set up in your classroom?
Well, we use Canva to do some slides presentations for their passion projects. So speaking of that, I didn't say passion projects, but Thrively blends so well and is such an efficient tool to coordinate passion projects. But we we start our passion project presentation by researching ourselves. And so that's why we made the little poster in Canva. I just found a template and just kind of went with it and then let them personalize it. As also a beginning kind of tech lesson on the magic of Canva and the possibilities and kind of the guess and check and just kind of discover how to use the whole platform. So it was a tech lesson as well as an exploration tool to then apply their Thrively vocabulary and then use it to fuel their list of personal passions as we embarked on our passion project.
I do want to make sure I thank you all for joining us today for Empower, Engage, and Elevate, Cultivating Joyful and Equitable Learning Environments. I hope you found this session insightful and that it challenged your thinking to impact your professional practices. Your feedback is really valuable to us, so I want you to take a moment to fill out our survey. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat for you. There's also a QR code if you want to scan it on your phone, or I've even included a bit.ly short link for you. And if you're a school-based staff member, if you help us connect with your school principal and refer them to us, you'll be entered for a chance to win a free Thrively pilot account. If you're interested in learning more about asset-based learning or strengths-based education, visit thrively.com/classrooms. I'll put that in the chat as well. And you'll find more resources. And please follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. All the things. Please join us, follow us. We've got more webinars upcoming in 2025. Thank you so much for your time today. And until next time, let's continue to humanize learning together. I appreciate all of you for giving me the gift of your time today and joining me. I hope you have a really great rest of your day and a wonderful winter break.
Thanks, Jamie. I love talking about Thrively with you.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Allison. You are always a pleasure to speak with, and I'm so excited that more people got to listen to the genius of you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.